having a Middle Eastern dad who was always like, 90% isn't enough, you need to be 95. Obviously that trained me to get better and become a perfectionist, but it's hurting me in a sense that I'm always seeking approval.
Did you ever have that conversation with your dad?
Reza Jackson is an entrepreneur and viral content creator who uses his platform to inspire men to lead a high-performing lifestyle.
Through his charismatic and comedic videos, he has cultivated a large community across all his platforms.
So you want to bring joy to people's lives?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you do that daily?
There's sometimes I post a video and like 20 people message me saying, oh my God, I sent my grandma your videos, man.
Do you celebrate your wins?
Yes, but they're very short-lived, unfortunately.
Why?
Because I'm so busy chasing the next thing.
What would you want people to say about you if you died today?
I've met Reza and he...
Reza, welcome to Gents Talk.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited about this conversation. We're having this really cool talk here in Los Angeles at a really beautiful space, thanks to our friends at VRBO. And when you and I connected on the phone, we were chatting about, the challenges for men to have conversations around mental health and wellness, because, you come from a part of the world that generally also doesn't encourage these kinds of conversations. You grow up in a North American society that's kind of pulling you in a different direction. I know that was something for me too. And I'm wondering, before we jump into all of those talks, what would I need to know about Reza in order to understand who you are?
Great question. Starting off strong.
Always.
Because I'm trying to answer it in a way that it will give a good foundation for all following sort of questions and answers. Probably that I'm an only child. I think that plays a pretty significant role in a lot of the ways that I think and behave. And
why?
Why? I think because growing up, like getting all of the attention from my parents and being like the sole focus, there's like some additional pressure that maybe someone with siblings wouldn't have as much of. Or I don't know, like I haven't talked to a person who has siblings to fully understand their experience, but I feel like sometimes I feel extra pressure, but at the same time, there's other elements that like, I feel like I seek validation for. Like I feel like there's a seeking validation that is connected to being an only child because I've always gotten the attention going into as an adult.
Does that play a role into why you decided to create content, put yourself out there, constantly be in front of people?
Maybe, I don't know.
I'm wondering, because I guess you're talking about that validation, wanting validation. We all crave that external validation, and you get that a lot on Instagram, TikTok, all these platforms.
Maybe, but I think everything is like twofold. I think the benefit of that and having that attention growing up and wanting that attention, seeking it as a child, results in, pursuing a career like being in front of the camera and creating content and being able to potentially be really good at it, right? So that's the pro. I think the con or the negative is that sometimes now I'm starting to understand when I reevaluate and look back at some of my reactions to things that I'm seeking validation. So I don't know if going down the route of being a content creator is to seek validation. I don't think it's that linear. Okay. But there's probably some elements to it.
Yeah.
But it's weird. I don't when it comes to content, I'm not consciously obviously looking for validation, but it's like other moments that I've been able to like recognize this challenge that I'm faced with.
When was the last time you had an identity crisis between what you're putting out online versus who you are privately? Is there even a difference between the two?
You know, I think it's weird because a lot of people would say there is, like when they meet me, they're like, oh my God, I thought you were going to be this type of person, or I thought you were going to be this. And I don't feel like I'm that different. Like I'm pretty like, I try to make my content based on my own experiences. Mm-hmm. Yes, obviously fabricated. Yes, obviously exaggerated. But I feel like if you look back at my content 5 years ago before TikTok, it was all like posing like content, right? Obviously that's a whole different person. That's not even me. Tend to like make comedy way more than be serious, right? I'm laughing more than I'm not laughing. So I feel like it is, in my opinion, an accurate reflection, but in other people's opinions, it might not be. But that's because of the way they judge based on how they think about what an influencer should be like. And I don't match that description.
Do you like the term influencer?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Yeah. Because of that. I mean, because I think it's associated with a type of creator, because things have changed in like the influencer marketing world. I mean, the word for it now is content creation, creator, but it's for a reason, because I think influencers, that term got a bad rep because it represented, you know, folks that were showing the best version of themselves, or showing off versus making relatable content.
Right.
Not even content, like you can be an influencer, you can be a sister of a celebrity and have millions of followers and have influence, but you're not really focused on the craft of creating content.
Right. So I'm wondering, you know, you were originally based in Toronto and then you moved to LA.
There's more. I was born in Tehran, moved to Vancouver when I was 7. Okay. My parents are still in Vancouver. Yeah. I lived there till I was 22, 23, moved to Toronto, was there for 8 years, and then moved to LA 3 years ago.
What triggered the move to California?
So I've had like an American passport, green card for like 5-10 years. And so it's always been at the back of my mind when I'm gonna, not a matter of like if I'm gonna move to the States, it was just a matter of when. Yeah. And interestingly enough, I was always gung-ho on New York, because New York was just like, I don't know, I feel like New York, one, I still love New York. I maybe might move there, but they were more supportive, it seemed like they were more supportive to smaller creators. And LA was like bigger, large, like celebrities, right? And I still believe that that's true. So anyways, once COVID hit, it was in March 2020 was when I was supposed to move to New York. And then obviously that happened. Sure. And then in those 2 years, I built my following, added TikTok to the channels. And I was like, okay, California is hotter. My family lives in San Jose. Some of them live in OC. I have a cousin in LA. I'll be closer to my parents. And I want to be in Hollywood or in LA eventually. Right. So might as well skip the whole New York step and go straight to LA.
Is there a misconception, like, or maybe that's not the question I'm looking for. Do you have to move to LA to build opportunities for yourself? Can you do that in any other place?
I'd recommend you do it in any other place.
Okay.
No, I mean, like, no.
I've heard that too. I've heard a lot of feedback from creators, actors, athletes, entrepreneurs, you name it, talking about how when they come to LA, it's kind of like wide-eyed. You're excited about all the different opportunities. You're seeing all the different opportunities, but after a while, it's like the shine fades and you kind of want to just like, I'm out. I need to leave.
I feel like my journey is actually the opposite of that, simply because I didn't have those expectations. Okay. But let me take a step back. I think LA, if you want to be an actor and in movies, of course, right? LA is the place to go. And I mean, that is the not exit, but a route that a lot of creators take. You see a lot of creators, Haley Bailey, for example, is going to be in a Hallmark movie this year. So a lot of creators end up in that direction. And if that's your direction, then, you know, LA would be great. But if it's solely to like blow up as a content creator and to make as much money as you can from brand deals, LA might actually not be the best place. Like when I was in Canada, I had 1/8 of the followers and I was getting double or triple the volume of collabs. Because there's just, you know, big fish in a small pond, small fish in a big pond.
When you put out your content, you said that you're often smiling more often than anything else in your content. in reality, there's times where you're not always smiling when life's hard. I've had creators talk to me about how despite whatever's going on in their personal lives, they have to maintain a certain image because that's what they're known for online. Do you struggle with that? Do you find, or are you able to balance those things?
This question is making me want to retract my earlier answer. If you think about it that way, from a sense of like all of Reza, when Reza's sad, when Reza's angry, when Reza's happy, no, the content doesn't capture all of that.
Yeah.
Right? So in a way, it is kind of a version of me, like the happier side. And so then to answer your question, I think it's a little bit, I'm in the comedy vertical. So if I can express these feelings in the format of comedy, then I would. But I don't think I've cracked that code yet.
You mentioned before we started rolling that you were primed for this conversation because you spoke to your therapist this morning. And I'm always fascinated, particularly when guys openly share, hey, I saw my therapist today, yesterday, I have an appointment next week, whatever. Why, firstly, is it important to you that you see a therapist?
Absolutely.
Why?
For a variety of reasons, but I think like first and foremost is like she changed. I went to her with like a very tactical problem of the fact that I couldn't sleep. And in that first session, she unpacked that, hey buddy, sleep is just one aspect. Like, why are you not going to sleep? Oh, because I'm worried I'm not gonna, do well in this presentation tomorrow. Why? What happens if you don't do well? And she just unpacked everything, relating everything back to the fear of death. I know this is like a big conversation, but just unlocking that and becoming more aware of that bigger question in our own heads made, like, just unlocked so much opportunity for me. And I was sold from the first session. And a year, maybe 2 months ago was when we started. And since then, my career has taken off, like in my full-time job. And I'm just generally better able to mitigate problems.
What's the skill set that you learned in terms of mitigating problems? Because it seems like there's a resistance for guys to go and have these conversations with therapists. Not just like, hey, everything is crumbling in my life, I need to go see a therapist. In your case, you said it was very tactical. You're like, hey, I'm having a hard time sleeping. Can you help me with something like that? And then you were able to, she pulled on that thread and there was a lot more there.
So much more.
And now you're just like, it sounds like you're very much in it and you're like advocating for it. Why is it important for people to consistently go see therapists?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I don't think you need to have a big problem or big trauma to go see a therapist. Like, every single human being can benefit from seeing a therapist. And I think the simplest way to put it is you probably are not unlocking all of your potential as a human being. And that's what she's helped me do, right? Not only, yes, it translates in a monetary perspective from work, but I'm generally able to, I'll give you one tactical example, like able to get over things that would stick longer or linger longer,
like what?
More quickly. Like, I'll give you an example. I just sold my place in Toronto, and they sent me an email when we first did the sale, which was like September 5th. And the closing date is November 20th, today. And so, whatever, I didn't even see the email. I didn't think it was a big deal. November 15th, we're like on the call with the lawyers to close out the transaction. And they're like, oh, wait, you're a non-resident. So that means that you need to give us 50% of the money in holding until the CRA clears it. And that could take, 3 to 6 months.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So then all of a sudden I'm like, shit, I have a problem on my hands. I have to get $300,000 in 5 days to these people. Long story short, my dad lent me the money. We're gonna pay interest on it, whatever. But I was beating myself up for like, why didn't you check the email, dude? Thinking over and over, you could have saved 2.5 months. Like, why didn't you check the email? Like, why is this happening to me? Like, playing victim. And eventually, if this was to happen to me a year ago, it would have been draining me for a week. But like day 2, day 3, I already saw the silver lining. I was like, okay, cool, you fucked up. Next time, you're gonna check your emails when you're selling a goddamn house, right? You're going to be on it. Number two, I have a second property in Vancouver. This property, I don't even pay tax because I lost money, okay? So there's no capital gains that they're going to tax. It's just the interest. But the Vancouver property, I bought it 10 years ago. So here's the nugget, is that now I know that as a non-resident, this is a situation, and when I go to sell that house, I'm going to be on it like a hawk. So it was a lesson. And therapy has helped me shorten the duration between how long it takes me to get over something and get the learning versus lingering on it and letting it drain you.
That's a very interesting way of looking at it, like in terms of how therapy can help you in different ways. Because I know that the times that I've gone to therapy have always been because of some traumatic experience or something really heavy that's burdening me, that I'm like, I need your help to unload, offload all of this. And then I've had conversations with people about treating therapy in a more proactive way, right? You go get your regular checkups with doctors even when you're not feeling sick, because you're taking a proactive measure of, hey, there could be something wrong, or should I look for something? And when you have that conversation in a proactive manner with a therapist, they're kind of doing the same thing, but for your mind.
I mean, it's only proactive to get you started.
Okay.
Meaning that when you actually go to therapy, like take a session and you vibe with the therapist and she's starting to understand you, it's no longer proactive, meaning that, like, I'll give you an example on why it kind of links back to the whole only child comment. She unpacks something, because you don't have to go through trauma. Everyone has trauma. Some of it is hidden. It's not that dark or deep. I mean, it is deep, but it's not dark. So for example, I fucked up this call at work. And I went like messaging my boss, hey, can you like listen to the recording? Telling my other colleague, hey, can you listen to the recording? Like, do you think I did well? Like, I think I did pretty good here. And I was telling her this example, and she's like, your inner child is right now seeking validation, saying, look how I did. And likely, based on the past conversations, that's coming from your dad, right? Having a Middle Eastern dad who was always like, 90% isn't enough. You need to be 95. Obviously, that trained me to get better and become a perfectionist, but it's hurting me in a sense that I'm always seeking that like approval. And so I bring that up as an example here because I think that's all been sitting there. So it's not proactive. She's just unpacking what's already there to make you be more free.
Right.
Be able to focus more, be able to, use your full potential or energy.
Do you ever have that conversation with your dad?
What do you mean?
Like, do you ever say to him, like, is that sort of that example that you gave about your father, does that encapsulate the kind of relationship that you had where it was always striving to do more, and when you felt like you achieved something and you showed it to him, it just still wasn't enough?
I wouldn't describe that as the whole relationship.
Sure, there's obviously much more to it. It's a lot more complex and nuanced, but was that a central element to the relationship? Maybe it still is.
Maybe, but there's so much love there. Like I would never bring it up to my dad and say, hey, look, like what you said to me when I was growing up and right now is like hurting me because I'm seeking validation thanks to you. I would never say that to him. Partly because, one, I know that what he did was all with obviously very positive intentions, right? I'm gonna make my son very disciplined. I'm gonna play a little hardball with him. So gotta love him for his intention, right? He doesn't, I don't think back then any men saw therapists.
No.
Right?
No, not at all.
So no, I wouldn't bring it up to him and I wouldn't change it. Because that kind of raising made me the person I am today in a lot of good ways. Right. And the bad things, we're dealing with it,
Yeah. Does he know you go to therapy?
I think so. Yeah. No, I'm not shy to tell him.
What about other men in your life? Friends, coworkers? Do you have these kinds of conversations with them?
Not all my friends. There's like a select few where I know, like, and I hate to say softy because if we label it as softy, then that's further like, but I have my softy friends who I'm like, okay, I can get sentimental with him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm single, for example, every time like there's this girl I like, one of my buddies, he's like, oh, fuck off, man. Because he's afraid of you losing his wingman, you know? But the other buddy, who's also a wingman, is the sentiment. He's like, tell me about your feelings, man. You like her? How much do you like her? Right? So I pick and choose. Yeah. I know who to talk to. And I'm tried talking to the other one many times. It's just like deflection. Not because he's not a deep guy, but because, you know, I'm his homie.
No, sure. I'm wondering, like, the two friends that you have, how long have you known them? These two guys?
The wingman?
Sure.
Like 20 years.
So you'd consider them like good buddies, good friends?
Yes. Yeah.
How long before you guys were able to finally have honest conversations with each other? Was that always the case, or did you have to work towards it? And I ask that because I took stock recently of the friends that I have. And I've had friends that I've known the longest, but the relationship is the shallowest. And I've had friends that I've known for maybe 2-3 years, and that relationship feels like it should have been, like we should have known each other for 30. Like that's how deep that relationship is. And so I'm wondering in this scenario here, if these two friends of yours, knowing them for 20 years, has it always been sort of like you've been able to connect with them on that level, or has it been something that you've had to actively work towards?
So I'll make one correction. The sentimental friend, that's like a 2-year friendship.
Okay.
The wingman is 20 year.
Okay.
But from a closeness and real talk perspective, they're about the same level.
It's interesting how that works.
If not a little bit more with the sentimental. But it's not that we're real with each other, but just in our own way, and I can express feelings. So I don't think it's time, like absolute time of your friendship that determines how real shit gets. I think it's more about where both of you are at from a awareness perspective and your own mental health and, you know, awakening journey. So me and the sentimental friend happen to be at the same pace. He's also seeing a therapist.
Right.
So he's also around like early mid-30s.
And you're able to connect on a different level.
Yeah, like we're both like on the same, what do you call it? Like same vibration, right? When it comes to those kinds of conversations. Whereas when I was 18, when I first met my other friend, we weren't thinking about these things.
No.
Right?
No. I'm wondering, as you're speaking, what your thoughts are on modern masculinity in relation to how guys approach conversations around wellness and mental health and being in touch with their emotions and, you know, not being afraid to express vulnerability. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Thoughts on that becoming more normalized?
Sure. Like what you're seeing, sort of particularly in your landscape, in your industry, the things that you're doing in your friend circle, within your family. Like you're kind of in this intersection of coming from a Middle Eastern background, but living in LA. You're kind of at that crossroads between the two. I've got family members, for example, that are just now finally learning to like say, hey, I'm not doing so well. And then I have friends who are still just like, would never say anything like that. They would just, no, I'm good. And I'm wondering, you know, as I'm seeing more and more guys finally start to go, oh, it is okay for me to express my emotions and it doesn't somehow take away from my masculinity. I'm wondering what you're seeing from where you're seated.
It's interesting because if I look at my dad, for example, he's definitely much more old school, not as expressive. And that's a big, you know, male figure in my life.
Sure.
But then when I look at my friends, I'd say it's like 50-50, right? 50% of them can get sentimental, can open up. But then I see the other 50% that are like very holding on. And it's interesting because I think I'm in a position now to be able to evaluate those that are holding on. And sometimes when they're angry, to not be mad at them, because I'm able to understand that maybe this is their way of expressing sadness is through anger.
Why do you think they're still holding on? I mean, you don't have to explain what's causing them to feel the way they feel, but why do you think they still choose to hold it in? Because I suspect just from our conversation now and from our conversations leading up to today, you're a very expressive person. You're very forward. So I don't get the sense that if I was in a long-term friendship with you that I would ever feel like I couldn't come to you. Why do you think that they still withhold?
I'm just gonna, in my mind, use one example or one friend that I have. I feel like it's fear
Of what?
of, I don't know if it's a fear of their friends judging them, because we certainly wouldn't. I think it's a fear of opening up that box and diving deep into this like darkness, right? Versus just masking it with anger, I don't know, partying, kind of ignoring it.
It's not an easy thing to do. I mean, it does require you to be a willing participant to say, hey, here's all of my shit, now I'm gonna go through it. Have you ever tried to have the conversation with them? Have you ever tried to just say, hey man, what's going on, and sort of like probe a little more?
Kind of, but
Doesn't work?
it doesn't work. You could tell that that person is not ready. Like they haven't even opened up to talk about it, think about it, it seems like. But maybe I should.
I'd always encourage you to try.
I think it's a little bit scary because
Yeah. Because I found for me, it works when I lead with vulnerability. So if you were, let's say, that friend in this situation, and I came to you and I said, you know, Reza, it's been now a couple of years since my divorce, and there are still moments where I feel like it's not completely laid to rest. Even though it's done, paperwork is done, all of those things, I'm in a new relationship, I'm engaged, all of these things, there's still parts of me that sometimes go like, holy shit, like is it resolved? Like, am I still holding something in? And it bothers me, and sometimes it keeps me up at night. And I find that when I have that conversation with someone and I lead with that, or I lead with something similar to that, the other person on the receiving end of that can't judge me. If anything, they kind of go, whoa, how can I be there for you? How can I hold space for you? And I find that when doing that, they then in turn open up to me.
and this could be a person that's been very closed off for many years.
Yeah, and I say that because I was the guy that was also closed off for many years.
Oh, really?
And it took someone expressing vulnerability to me for me to finally go, oh, okay, this is what that vulnerability thing looks like that everyone's been talking about. I can't judge this man for sharing his deepest fears, right? It was at the beginning of the pandemic, and I had called him because I needed help. I was right in the middle of the divorce, and I needed someone to talk to. And instead he started talking about how the pandemic has basically ruined his career, his chances at making it to the Olympics. He was competing for Team Canada, all of these things. And I'm just like, holy shit, what could I do to support you? And then immediately after he shared all that, I thought, I feel so much more at ease. My shoulders are relaxed. Can I tell you something? And then I started sharing my stuff. And I was like, wow, this actually felt good to finally get it off my chest. And I wonder if you were able to do that with your friends, you'd be doing a service for them in creating that space for them to be able to open up.
I haven't done it. I should try it. It reminds me of that Simon Sinek episode he did. I think it was at Stephen, where he talked about his friend that he was helping, and like he would do all these sessions, but none of it would work until he asked her to help him with something, and then her helping him helped her get over everything that she was going through.
It's interesting
so
how
kind
it
of
works.
like this,
It's like when you provide service to someone and you create space for them, the other way, when you ask them to create space for you and help you, by them witnessing what happens when that interaction occurs, they suddenly feel like, oh, maybe this is what the roadmap could look like for someone helping me. And they suddenly feel a little more open to doing it. I'm wondering at the same time, being a content creator, living in LA, doing all of these things, do you find that there are moments where you just go, I can't do this whole social media thing anymore. I need a break. It's mentally exhausting. I've had a number of conversations with creators who've talked about how it consumes them too much. They post something and they're constantly refreshing all the apps, seeing how it's doing. They're looking at the comment section. How did it do to my last video? How is it doing compared to someone I know who's in a similar vertical and they're doing much better than I am? It creates this sort of negative feedback loop. How do you balance those?
Well, I logged out of Instagram 2 days ago. Going a little cleanse here.
Okay.
So there you go. Very good timing.
Yeah.
How do I deal with that? Yeah, it sucks. I mean, it's just it was actually, I'm going to use an example because this literally happened yesterday while I was walking. A friend of mine, he's this creator who does this like French accent stuff. And he's like the epitome of what you want to be as far as a creator that plays in comedy and fashion lanes and that intersection. And I'm watching his stories and he's just like filming a movie in Bali, then he's in Paris with Jean-Paul Gaultier, like all these like crazy sick collabs. These are sick collabs. And he's such a good guy, and he's like living the dream. And I like felt this like envy, but again, the therapy is that's where this like jumped right in this moment. Maybe not like immediately, but maybe like 5, 10, 20 minutes after these thoughts, I was like, no, you know what? I'm fucking proud of this guy. You get it, man. More for you. Like, I love it. You inspire me. And then I started looking at his content. I was like, okay, he's now doing more serious stuff and like really perfecting the script. He's starting to use a professional camera versus his phone. And I started looking at him more as a source of inspiration. And I was like proud of him. I was happy for him. And that kind of solved the issue of like, why not me? Why is he getting 10 times more likes? Why is he getting this many more collabs? Because if you start looking at these success stories or moments of success as a form of inspiration, then you're at a whole different, your mind is in a whole different position.
It's interesting how you do that. I want to try that because I'm guilty of looking at, let's say, other podcasters, other creators and going, we create very similar content. The quality of our content, I've shown you the content that we create. I'm like, they're identical in some ways, but yet their numbers are astronomical. I'm like, what is it that's happening there? Why is this not working? And then I get stuck in that rabbit hole sometimes. Now I think I want to try to reframe the, hey, that's really cool. What can I learn from that? Where's the inspiration to pull out of that? And being proud of them. Like, I think there's a certain vibe that goes with like, fuck yeah, bro. Good for you. Yeah. Good for you. Not like good for you. Good for you. You know, like it's just a whole, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, you look at it like it's your brother succeeding. I don't know. Do you celebrate your wins?
Yes, but they're very short-lived, unfortunately. But
the win itself or your celebration?
Both.
Why? Why the celebration being short-lived?
Partly because, like, I don't know, like, I'm in sales too, by the way. That's my full-time job. I work at #paid. Yep. It's an influencer marketing agency, not to plug in any brands. #sponsored. But so in that framework, I'm in sales, right? We have a quarterly quota, an annual quota. Q2, I absolutely, unequivocally crushed it. Number one, okay? Q3, day one of Q3, back to zero. Like the celebration is literally 24 hours.
Right.
And it's just a good framework of thinking about life where these things, achieving your quota or getting 10 brand deals, they're all temporary. I was driving today, I just moved into a house. Someone asked me yesterday, I was having dinner with this girl and she's like, so like, did you ever dream or manifest about living in Beverly or living in the hills? I'm like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. And I haven't even spent 1 second to recognize that I actually did what I dreamed of because I'm so busy chasing the next thing. Like I'm driving here and I'm like, wow, these houses have views. They probably have a pool, that's sick. But even if you get that house, if I move into this house, the high from this will last a month. So everything is temporary.
How do you then stay present? How do you stop yourself from constantly just immediately jumping to the next thing and then before you know it, you're 10 years later and you haven't really enjoyed anything along the way?
I enjoy it, but I would say that it's a long-term muscle building of learning how to be something my sales manager years ago said. He said, don't ride your highs too high, don't ride your lows too low. Just be happy. That same thing formed itself with my therapist the first time we got on the call. She's like, wow, you're so disciplined. You get up at 6, you do all this. Like, I'm not here to help you be more disciplined. You're good on that front. What I'm here to do is to make you happy when you wake up and you don't have a nice car and you don't have a house and you're not making lots of money. I want to know that you can still say, I'm very happy in that moment versus when you have all these things. So
How do you do that?
how do I stay happy without monetary things?
Yeah.
It's hard to say because I kind of haven't. You know what I mean?
But there was a time where, let's say, you were trying to work towards these things, right? Like a dream is a dream because you don't have it yet. So how did you stay happy when you're still working towards the thing?
And I'm still working towards a thing.
Sure.
It's a forever,
Yeah.
I don't know what Matthew McConaughey said. Matthew McConaughey? How do you say his name?
McConaughey, yeah.
McConaughey? Yeah. He was like, I'm chasing myself 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Rah.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Like, how do you stay present in the moment? Because I understand the angle of celebrate your wins and then sort of start prepping for the next goal, work towards the next goal, keep going forward. I do that. But on the flip side, sometimes when I stop and I think and I reflect on these things and I go, I haven't actually really been present along the way, because as soon as I'm 80% of the way towards achieving the goal and I'm like, I can see it, it's right there, I know what I have to do, and I'm confident I'm going to get it, I'm already now thinking and planning for the one after that. And by doing that, I'm almost not even paying attention anymore to the existing goal. And by the time I've done this 3-4 times in a row, I've achieved so much and I'm so happy about it, except I'm not really happy about it because I haven't really taken a moment to go, wow, I just did this.
Okay, so I think the thing that I'm working towards, the state that I want to get to in light of being present, is to detach myself from the wins or the achievements to dictate my happiness. Meaning that, yes, I could celebrate bigger when I win and have a bigger moment there, but I'm trying to get myself to a position where hitting my Q2 goals isn't the source of my happiness. Yes, it'll make me in a happier state, but it isn't the source of my happiness. So that if I don't hit it, I'm not gonna be sad that I didn't hit it. So how do I do that? Is just practicing being more present and being happy with shit I have.
How do you practice being present?
I think, like, more tactically speaking, like every morning when I wake up, I do my whole, what are you grateful for? Where are you winning? What do you want to let go of today? How do you envision your day going? And what's one thing you want people to say about you if you were to die today?
What would you want people to say about you if you died today? Knock on wood.
Today? Yeah. This morning? What did I say today? What else? I've met Reza and he, made me feel better after meeting him. I was in a bad mood and I met Reza and now I'm in a good mood. And it was very simple.
So you want to bring joy to people's lives?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you do that daily? In your current life, career, relationships, do you feel like you do that?
Not every day, but most of the time I think I do. It's interesting because I'm always seeking to find, okay, what's the deeper, why am I doing this? Why am I creating content? What's the actual purpose here? And then when I evaluate what moments I'm the happiest, it's not necessarily when a video gets 15 million views. There's sometimes I post a video and 20 people message me saying, yo, I was having a shitty day, but I went on your page and oh my God, thank you, bro. Or I meet people in person oh my God, I send my grandma your videos, man. And I'm like, okay, this is making me happy. This is actually, I'm very I could feel the happiness. So I feel having those experiences and trying to pinpoint what it is, if I were to put a single point on it, it would be to, when people come on my page, I want them leaving a little bit happier.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about the source of your happiness. Is that the source right there? Making people happy?
I think it's the purest source, yeah.
In what sense?
Pure as in it's very, like, not selfish, or is it selfless?
And on the days where you don't feel like you've done that, does that take away from your own personal happiness, or are you still able to move forward?
I'm still able to move forward. Like, I'll give an example just to answer that, like, because I think happiness and presence are, like, very, almost the same thing, or they are the same thing. I walk my dog every morning, and I try to, like, I don't check my phone like an hour and a half after I wake up. So
Why? We'll come back to the story.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by people who do that. Why?
I just don't want any like other chatter, other like pending things to do to like go on my radar. Whether it's checking how many comments I got and checking your emails to see if that client got back to you. Like all these things that are just like small problems. I want a clear mind. I don't want it to be intoxicated. Intoxicated, is that the word?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. But that's, and I do that, I try to do it before sleep too.
How many, like what amount of time before sleep do you just cut it all off?
I try for like 45 minutes, 30 minutes.
In your morning routine, you said you walk your dog and then...
You want to know? I'm very eager to share I love my morning routine. So I go to sleep at like, I go to bed at 8:30, 8:45. Yeah. Pass out by 9:30. I mean, that's the ideal day. Sleep from 9:30 till 6:15. But I actually get like 8 hours of sleep out of that 8 hours and 45 minutes. Shout out Oren. Wake up. First thing I do is literally that exercise. And then I stretch, do my bed. The blinds go up. Well, the blinds go up like immediately because I want the sun to hit me as soon as I wake up. Do my bed, which like I'm a big advocate, like military style. Like my bed is just pristine.
There's something about making your bed in the morning. Like that first task, making your bed, actually makes you feel accomplished.
Fantastic. Like it would be weird if I didn't have my bed done. You'd be like, Reza, are you okay? You know what I mean? Do the bed, clean the house because I have a dog. She sheds. But there's something about, I don't know, like carpets. When you vacuum a carpet, those lines. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
It feels nice, right? Those lines.
I can't say it does for me what it does for you.
No?
It certainly does it for my fiance. She loves that stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then I take her for a walk.
Okay.
And then it's on this walk that, to get back to the story, I try to be as present as possible, meaning that I'm trying to not go on my own cycle of like thinking about all the problems that I'm going to deal with. I do that by just focusing on whether it's the scents, whether it's what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing. I'm just focusing on sound.
Right.
And so there was this one moment yesterday or 2 days ago where these two birds were like playing, they were playing like tag, and like they were fighting, chirping at each other, and then one would run away and then the other one would go after it. And I was standing there in like awe for 10 minutes. And then I snapped out of it. I was like, fuck, that's presence. Like a child, right? So that to me was like a meditation, because when I got back home, I felt like cleansed. I don't know, like it was like actually like 5 minutes, like. And so I get back, go to the bathroom. This is when I check my comments, etc. And then cold plunge.
Okay.
3 minutes.
Yep. What's it?
38 degrees. Not 50s, man. And then go to the gym.
Yeah.
I love my gym. And then shower, and then I'm at the desk by 9 a.m. and that's the end of my morning routine.
And it's a consistent routine every day.
Yes, except some weekends.
Sure. A little more on the weekend to just relax a little bit.
I don't know about relax.
Okay, so I want to ask you one more question here. You're very forthcoming with the whole going to therapy aspect of your life, and it's clear just by the way you're speaking and the way you now approach different things that are happening in your life that you're just like, this is the way I'm going to deal with this. Is there a piece of advice you can give someone listening to this, watching this, who is sort of gets stuck in things and hasn't quite taken this step to go speak to a therapist, have that conversation. And maybe it's not even just with a therapist, but it's with someone else. Is there a piece of advice you can give that person?
I usually get advice, I don't give advice.
Now's your moment.
I mean, I think the advice would be, whatever you're thinking about, bro, probably you're gonna be over it soon. And you're making it the reason why it's getting bigger and bigger is because you're not consulting. You might not have a full understanding of what's going on. And I encourage you to see a therapist or at least have a conversation, because I promise you, whatever you're going through, tons of other people are going through, and this too shall pass, and you are capable beyond your own measure.
I like that. I like the point about, it feels a lot of times whenever we internalize something and we don't externalize it, it starts to grow in our minds and it starts to weigh on us even more. And suddenly that thing becomes so big, so heavy. And when we finally let it out, whether that's talking about it, journaling it, solving whatever the problem is, we step back, reflect, and go, wow, it wasn't actually as big as I thought it was. And that's the power of just externalizing it, because our mind will start to pull in all sorts of different things that could go wrong and make it so much bigger than what it is and make you feel like it's insurmountable. And then suddenly you go, well, let me just take a moment here. Let me get it out of here, throw it over there, and then go, okay, what is this actual problem? Now you can actually go, I'm ready to handle this. I'm ready to deal with it. Whether it's the house sale or a relationship or anything, you're kind of like, okay, I can handle this. This is not as big as I've manufactured it to be.
I mean, there was this one call I had with my colleague. I get on the call, she's like, how are you? I'm like, yo, I'm stressed, right? There's so much going on. She's like, Reza, we sell Instagram posts. You're not a doctor. You're not, someone's life isn't on the line. Like, okay, whatever. It doesn't work out, khalas, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but that one thing stuck with me. Because now when I'm in bed, to go back to the very beginning of this, of like challenges while sleeping, every issue that comes up, I'm like, all right, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Like, it's an Instagram post. I'm a content creator. Okay, you don't make a banger one day. Like, really? You don't hit your Q2. Okay, whatever. You're healthy, you're living. You're gonna call your mom tomorrow. Like, you just realize how small your issues are.
Reza, thank you so much for your time, brother.
Thank you, this is fun.
It flies, time flies.
Time flies, where are we at? What time is it?
I think we're at
Did you cut me off early? I need to know. I need to know if I made the elite.
You made the cut. If it was at 20, like I said, if we cut at 20, then you know that's probably going to get aired. But it's getting aired, I promise.
Okay, great.
But seriously, I really appreciate your time. And I love your way of thinking about problems in particular, because I'm always fascinated with how people approach whatever is ailing them in life. Whether it's small, big, doesn't matter. The point is they're dealing with their daily things in a very specific way. And you seem to have found a recipe. Kudos to your therapist on all the work that she's been able to do. But just, you seem to have found a recipe that's worked for you, and you're kind of just like, this is the blueprint that I'm going to keep following. And I think I'm going to try that.
Just chipping away at it every day. Like, it's a work in progress.
Oh, absolutely. It's never a finished product. You're just constantly doing it every day, and every day you improve, and it's just stacking days, doing a little more every single day to get better every day, even a small percentage. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you so much for your time, everybody.